There is an indefinable, mysterious power that pervades everything. That power that can make a way out of no way.
Today, in the world, there's so much suffering because of that one of prayer.
Welcome to the main event.
To do in these moments that follow. Staying connected to your breath and giving yourself fully to your prayer. And setting your intention. What is it that you're seeking in your life? What is it that's most important for you to invest in right now? To give yourself to right now? My intention today is to know that Krishna is with me, to know that my higher power is with me right now, to know that. And I'll state it internally. You guys can state yours internally. We'll do it 3 times. My dear Lord, we want to know that you're with us every moment of our life. So much of the distraction we experience, so much of the suffering that we experience, we can root it all back to somehow or other, some way turning away from you. That you're with us in our heart. You're our dearmost friend that's able to help us to understand any circumstance or any situation, able to have clarity and understanding of how we can respond in a way which is aligned with your grace, with your love, with your will. And that if we look at our entire life, we look at any of the difficulties, any of the challenges, any of those fears that we have faced, those dark nights, those dark days of our soul, we can trace it back to somehow or other we've forgotten that you're with us. Somehow or other we've stepped away from the belief and the knowingness you are with us. You're riding with us in the chariot seat of our heart. Help us to remember. Help us to feel your presence right now like a friend sitting by your side. Help us to remember that we can feel that you're with us right now in the room. It's not some far out, far away experience. You're with us right now. We've just forgotten that for so long that we don't believe that it's a reality. That you reveal to us through your great teachings that you're seated in our hearts. You're the dearmost friend of the wandering soul. Help us today to connect to that knowingness, to connect to your presence as our divine guide, as our divine teacher, as our dearmost friend, guiding the wandering of our wayward souls. Help us to know that you're with us. Help us to be able to hear your voice. Let us call out every single moment of our life. Before we act, let us be clear. What is our intention? Are we remembering that you're with us? Are we remembering that there's an option? There's an option that I can be guided by you in every moment of my life. That I can hear your voice. And I can know and I can have confidence that the next step that I'm taking in my life is in consciousness to serve you and to serve for the upliftment of the entire world. Our little spheres of influence, let us live as examples in our life, just with sincerity in our heart to want to grow, to want to awaken spiritually, to want to reach our full potential, our ever-expanding potential, to love, to express compassion, to express service in every moment of my life. In every single moment of our lives. Help us to know we're on that path as we pray to you, as we call out your names, as we go into our spiritual practice, as we reach out with sincerity to reconnect to you. We are awakening all the divine qualities of our soul. Let us bring those into the world right now. The world has always needed it. We always need reminders. We need constant reminders of your love for us. Let us be those reminders in the lives of every person we come into contact with. Let us be those reminders for each other today as we pray. And as we open our eyes in a few moments, let us see each other as those reminders. And we call out your names every single day. All your energies are infused in your name. Your name is not different from you, carrying all your transcendental qualities. When we call out your names, we awaken those same qualities within our soul. We call out your name with a sincerity to hear each syllable, to hear your name, and to know that by wrapping our consciousness around the sound of your name, we begin to awaken ourselves spiritually and reconnect to you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hey, good morning, Doyle.
Tuned in late. I was doing. I'll explain in a second. I lost track of time. You want to get on? All our Instagrammers are like, where are you?
Okay. Would you like to go on Instagram today, or just keep it on Zoom?
I'm on Instagram. I think they'll want to tune in.
Okay. Let me just set up my thing.
They want to tune in. They want to be here with you. I think it's all though. It's a plot to get them all to join Zoom, because now they recognize they miss out, and if they missed it late. It's always like, don't leave us. He's tuning in, guys. He was here. It's me that's late. I have a good.
Right on time, Doyle. It's called divine time.
I have a slightly good excuse. Okay, Vira joined. There he is. There's his request. Beautiful. And here he comes. And there he is.
Oh, guys, I'm so sorry. I just got out of bed just now, and I was running late. I really apologize about that. Doyle, please forgive me, man.
Vira's taking the blow for me. He's covering for me. It was me. You want to know what happened? What happened? I was taking a Spanish lesson online with a girl in Taiwan. And it was supposed to be earlier, and she saw my email because she was giving me a Google Doc, and she was asking where I work, and I started telling her where I work, and then she had so many questions about my life, and I was trying to explain my life in Spanish for the first time, and then all of a sudden it was 9:05. I was like, I gotta go, and so anyways, I just lost track of time because I was trying to explain my life in a different language. Oh, Krishna.
Wow, that sounds interesting.
Anyways, I knew I had to set it. Supposed to finish at 8:45, and here I am. Anyways, no excuses. I'm glad you guys are here. I tuned in to Vira's prayer. You gotta just call me. Gotta call me next time. I think I got a text, but I don't get text message notifications on my phone, and so
I was just trusting, man. You're a man of like unbelievable feeble excuse.
Feeble excuse.
David, yeah. Let him have it, guys. Let's hear it in the chat board. Let him have it.
It's not an excuse. It's just what happened.
That he's acknowledging. He's telling us his story. We're not impressed. We're not impressed with the story.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, when you weren't coming on, I was just kind of like
relieved.
Yeah, well, I was just. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I wasn't. It's like I don't even know what the Bhakti Center's Instagram login is. Like I just like whatever. We're just doing it on Zoom. And that it's always perfect, and that's something I've struggled. We're talking about time in our lifestyle course right now. We're talking about time a lot, and time is something that I have struggled with in my life in so many different ways. Like whether it's being on time to something, like I always push it. Like I push it to the limit. I don't do it now in my life anymore. I've kind of adjusted that. Or like feeling like I don't have enough time, like feeling the anxiety and the nervousness and the anxiousness that I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was in New York and I was first kind of getting used to the public transportation system, and I was going around New York, and I didn't have a studio. So I was just seeing people in their homes when I first came to New York in 2011 for body work and coaching and stuff. And it was like a constant state of anxiety. I was in literally like, until I arrived at the person's door, I was like, adrenaline was like pumping through my body, you know, and then like I would get there and I'd be like, you know, and then like enter into the room and like I was able to shift into
like, could you do a quick session on me first before I work on you?
Right, to get all the adrenaline out of my blood. And then at a certain point, it was happening so often that it's like, you know, all of a sudden, like a road closure or a garbage truck is parked and, you know, unloading the trash for 15 minutes. It's just like, there's just like unlimited things in New York. I'm on a subway and like this, you know, there's a delay. Like there's nothing you can do about it. Even I'm giving myself enough time. And so then I just really started to soften into this, like, let me give myself buffers in my life. Like, let me not push things to the limit. You know, like if it takes 20 minutes on Google to get somewhere, give myself 30 minutes to get there, you know, give myself the buffer. And if it somehow took me 45 minutes to get there, you know, there's nothing I can do about it. And to enter into like the wonder, to enter into like the mystery and like the unbelievable adventure that is actually happening. It's actually perfectly designed and perfectly happening. And of course, that's something that I was able to, you know, a simple kind of example of that I was able to soften into in my life. And it became that. I just knew, like I had no guilt about it. I had no shame, you know, showing up to a client's house 10, 15 minutes late. It just is what it was. You know, I didn't carry any of that tension. And every single time that I've walked into that situation, the person is always understanding. Literally, it's every single time. I can't remember a time where someone was like, I can't believe you. I can't, you know, like, I'm going to really like make sure you understand this. It doesn't happen. When I'm going through it in that consciousness, I'm the one that's worried. I'm the one that's afraid. I'm the one that's burning myself out in that consciousness. So I was very trusting. I was fully trusting. And
you shouldn't trust me that much.
Yeah, no, fully trusting.
My wife and I, we live like that all the time. We just get to a point where we joke with each other, because there was like a few years ago, maybe it might have been 4 years ago, or I don't know. It was Thanksgiving, and we live in New York City, and my wife's family's out in Jersey. And you know, after my wife and I got married in 2014, and her brother got married literally like 2 weeks before us, and so all the siblings are kind of grown up and they're married now, so they go with their different families. And so it was the first year that my wife's parents decided that they were just going to go rent a house somewhere in Connecticut and have Thanksgiving there. And my wife and I were going to go see them there. So we had to catch a train on Thanksgiving to go see her family in Connecticut, some place in Connecticut, Mystic Seaport, Connecticut. And we had to catch the train, and it was Thanksgiving Day, so the trains only came like every hour, you know. And if we missed this one train, we would have just like missed them. And we were at home. We were at the Bhakti Center. There was like a big Thanksgiving Day something at the Bhakti Center, and we had to cook lunch and serve lunch, and then we made it out to go to see them at the Penn Station. And we literally like were down to the last minute. Like we took the subway to Penn Station. We got out of Penn Station, and we were booking it. We were running with our bags, like to the point, you know, when you start running and like your heart starts burning, you're like, okay, I got to rest. It was like, there is no option for rest. Like keep pushing it. We were just like moving it and booking it. And we didn't have time to look. And we got to the train station, the platform, and literally the train had started moving. And the conductor was there, and we were like, wait, and he literally like just like paused the train for a second and let us on. And we were like, if we were 10 seconds later, we would have missed this train, we would have missed Thanksgiving, would have missed it completely. And we were just like, we got to like fix our lives, you know? Fast forward 365 days from then, it's Thanksgiving again, we're at home, and we're just kind of like, you know, we don't need to leave till whenever. And somehow like we got on the train, and the subway was a little delayed. And we found ourselves running to the train again. And as we're running again to catch the train to see our parents, we're like, it's 365 days later. We are in the exact same spot We were a year ago at Thanksgiving. Like, how are we doing? We're running down 34th Street towards 7th Avenue, and we're like, how are we doing this again? Like, what is wrong with us? You know? And it's just like, you know. And so we just it's like an addiction. It's an addiction to the adrenaline of being almost late.
I mean, there's a big difference though. I heard a big difference in that story. You know, you're giving yourself, you know, you gave yourself a buffer, and then there was nothing you could do about it. Maybe you guys just like adventure, so you guys keep kind of bringing that, you know, bring that little flavor in there. But
We're nuts.
You built in the buffer. There's nothing you could have done about it, right?
Well, it's like you ride the subways in New York City and it's always delayed, and then the conductor comes on, please leave yourself an extra 45 minutes when traveling to work. It's like I'm supposed to build in an extra like 3 hours of my day every day, like just to get somewhere. And so it's just you know, I'm not in control, and at the same time I'm also foolish. I'm also just foolish. So it's a little bit of both, a little bit of my own humility of surrender, and a little bit of my own. Anyways, I can go on and on and on about that, but I don't know if we just want to talk about being late today.
Well, I'm just thinking about, you know, okay, I'm thinking about intention. I'm thinking just what's coming to me is that, okay, either, you know, okay, I have intention, and we're talking about time, but just in general in life, you know, I have clear intention. You know, there's two ways that we can go with it if we look at the kind of the poles of it. One is like, okay, like I'm creating with intention, you know, that there is a goal that I have, and that everything is a consideration, and I'm hiking to the top of that mountain, whatever that is in life. That's where I'm moving. I'm creating the flow with determination, with clarity, with intention. And the other is that I'm going with the flow, you know, and those are two, you know, we're gonna need to apply those at different times in our life, and they're dynamic, right? They're interwoven and they're dynamic. Sometimes in our life, it's that time to surrender, you know, to let go. I don't know what my next step is, or I don't, you know, I don't have control over the situation. I'm stuck on a subway.
Yeah.
That's the consciousness, right? It's like, okay, like I've done everything I can with clear intention, and now something's coming into my life which I don't have control over. Now that's where I surrender. That's the opportunity for surrender.
Yeah.
And then also it's like, okay, you know, then we're looking at that. Yes, I want to be on time. Yes, that is my intention, whatever that may be in my life. That yes, I want to be more compassionate. I want to be more thoughtful of the suffering of other people in my life. And specifically, this is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, specifically, I have a goal, I have an intention, I have people in my life that I'm actually going to direct that toward. I'm commit to.
Yeah.
I'm creating the flow.
Yeah.
And then we'll see that so many different circumstances, situations will come in our life where then again, I'm creating that flow, I'm creating that intention, and okay, now it's the time to go with the flow.
Yeah.
And if we're really if we're clear in the onset, it's what we're talking about in our prayer today. You know, if we're clear in the onset, you know, what is it that I'm going into the situation with? You know, what is it that I'm going into the situation with? And I forget that God is with me in my heart every single, you know, every few minutes, every couple minutes, every few seconds, practically. I forget the reality. Like, oh, I can have that conversation first, or I could reach out, or I could open up the space at the table for my thinking to be connected to God's will. I could just open that space up. That's an intention, right? It's like constantly that I can keep bringing that into the prayer revolution. I keep bringing that into my day. I keep bringing that into my life, and that I'm co-creating with my higher power. So that intention is there. It's co-created from our higher self in a connection with the divine. That intention in itself, it's purified.
Yeah.
And then when I'm moving from there, we're taking guidance. We have our teachers, we have our friends, we have the teachings. We've got a beautiful framework. It's not just me and God. It's not, we know that. We've talked about that so much in the podcast. There is a framework, there's a structure that helps us to connect to that voice within. And every moment of our life, we have that opportunity. We have that option. And when we're checking in with that option, yes, now it's time to be determined. Now it's time to be steadfast. Now it's time to support that person that's suffering or struggling. Go with that directness. Go create that flow. And then, you know, then they don't want to change. You know, you go, you try to help your friend, and they're not ready to change. They're not even aware that they need to change, so we don't control it, right? We don't control the situation. We give ourselves up to the higher power. That's where we go with the flow again. Until another opportunity, another clear intention can be set where we're able to create the flow in our life. And so I'm looking at those two paradigms and how they're interwoven in our life, and how to, I know that a consciousness that I've had at different times, where is that, yes, God's will is always unfolding. And so then therefore, let me surrender to God's will, like, hey, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It's kind of like a passivity is there, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And so I'm kind of passive. I'm like floating down the river. And then there's an assertiveness that's empowering for every one of us to create that vision, to co-create that vision of our life with God, to trust, to have faith, to connect to our intention behind why this vision is so important to us, and create that flow in our life. And then to know always we're going to need to surrender to it as well. We're going to need to surrender to the things that we don't control. So
I heard a nice definition of, you're talking about buffer, a nice definition of buffer once, our breathing room in our life. Breathing room is the space between our current pace and our limits. So we have limits. I have limits of how much I can lift, how fast I can go, how much I can squeeze in a day, how much emotional bandwidth I have, how much mental energy I can expend. Like, we all have those limits. And wherever my current pace is now, the space between that current pace and my limit is the breathing room. And I usually think like, oh, there's space in my schedule, I got to fill it. Or just because I can physically or emotionally handle something doesn't mean I necessarily just take it on. That we think that there's got to be space for breathing room. And it's very hard today, in today's culture specifically, I think, especially in a place like New York City. I mean, I'm in New Jersey right now visiting my wife's family, and it's like you can feel the difference a little bit just being outside of the city, because the energy is so frenetic, because you pick that up from the people around you. So environment definitely plays a big part. But I think in just today's global culture in general, everything is just like, you got your text message, you got WhatsApp, you got your Instagram message, you got Facebook message, you got emails, you've got like everything coming at you constantly, checking things and looking at things and being invited to things and talking, etc. That we think like, oh, I just got to put in more. And then we just become, ping pong balls in our schedules, without thinking like, if there's space in my life, just leave it open, leave it empty, leave it, don't fill it. Because things are going to come up. The train's going to be late. You know what I mean? At some point, and what are you going to do if you didn't leave any space or any gap? You know what I mean? And so with our finances, with our time, with our emotional energy, and so I think that, it's kind of like, if I want to experience that flow of God's love in my life, I have to leave space for it. Otherwise, it's like, if the closet is too filled, where are you going to put stuff? And so I think it's a lesson of learning not to be, I used to lead discussion groups with students on campus at Columbia University. When I used to live as a monk in the ashram, we would go and we would do Bhakti-yoga discussions or talk about things in their life. And I'm always a person, like, it's in a group, if there's silence, like, I feel like I got to fill that silence, like I'm nervous. If I ask a question to the group and somebody doesn't answer right away, it's like, I got to fill it. But I learned over time, or I was taught over time, like, if there's silence, let it hang. Sometimes people need a moment to like think of something to say and speak up. And I think that also sometimes that if there's space in our life, also it's really good to just leave it empty, because who knows, maybe something else is going to come in. Maybe that space is there for a reason, because something later is going to come and fill that up. And don't just fill it up with empty carbs, in the meantime, like, leave some space, because something's coming later. And so I'm not good at that. I'm really speaking to myself here. I could tell you a lot of it. I could really embarrass myself in front of all of you if you really wanted me to the point where you're like, I'm not listening to this guy anymore. He needs to go get his life together. But I think that it's something that I'm continuously learning. Hence me being late today.
Grateful for you being on, DG. And I'm loving the chat board. We're seeing, yeah, different practices. And I believe a lot of it comes from distracting ourselves from the deeper feelings that we actually have in our heart, sometimes that we have been neglecting or avoiding in our life. You know, we've experienced traumas, we've experienced pains, we've experienced difficulties, we have memories in our life that we want to erase, you know, that are too painful to actually be with. And so, you know, we're in a culture and we're in a way of living that oftentimes is really just, we're distracting ourselves from really feeling. You know, what I'm hearing you say is actually, let's give ourselves the practice of scheduling nothing, so we can sit down. We can sit down and take inventory.
Totally.
And inventory just meaning like I'm just breathing and what is going on inside? What is going on inside of my heart and my mind? You know, and you know, give myself an opportunity to actually to connect to that, and whatever it is that we're seeing that's unresolved there, you know, to then dedicate time to resolving whatever the fears are, the depressions, the angers, the resentments, whatever is there inside of our heart, to be able to call God in, to be able to co-create and to be able to see how we can rectify ourselves, we can purify our own hearts and our own consciousness, and to know that the expression of that, the expression of our consciousness, our pure consciousness, the expression of our soul, becoming instruments of God's compassion, that's the joy, that's the fulfillment that we're seeking in our life. Yeah. And it takes that space to actually, to process, to cleanse, and to become fit, you know, to hollow out, right? There's so much stuff that's built up inside of our psyche, inside of our heart, inside of our psychology, so many impressions that are built up, you know, that are caked over our lens of how we perceive the world and how we perceive ourselves. And that internal inventory and that internal cleansing and the space for that is the most important thing in our life. Yeah. I wrote the other day somewhere that if there's something missing in my life, or if I feel there's something missing in my life, I better make sure to leave space for it for when it shows up, as opposed to I gotta fill it, I gotta find it, I gotta fill it up. It's like, no, it's like, otherwise when that thing comes into my life that's meant to, I want to make sure there's space for it. And so I think I'm here loving that. Just our friend on our Zoom, Todd Deckard, wrote, "It sounds crazy and maybe even might sound inauthentic, but I had to start building a practice of setting phone alarms and Google Calendar reminders intentionally in my day to stop and pray or chant or inventory myself." I think that's great. I'm going to start doing that. I do that, and then I just snooze it, you know? No snooze, Doyle. Come on. You didn't get the memo. You didn't get the reminder to not snooze. You snoozed your reminder to not snooze. I did, and I deleted it. Oh my God. Refuse to snooze. It's so hard. Anyways, I appreciate it. It's a real good lesson. I'm learning. Everybody that has Doyle's phone number, send him a text message right now. Send him a text message. Yeah. Send him heart emojis. Yeah. I have turned all notifications off on my phone, and I don't keep the volume on my phone ever. And so you know something, it's an interesting little tip, and I'll leave us with this. I tried it, but I found ways around it. I read this book, How to Break Up with Your Phone. And the author recommends organizing your phone screen. You know what I mean? Like what apps are right there on the front and what apps are when you scroll afterwards. And also to put certain apps into certain folders. You know what I mean? And to remind yourself of like, okay, like I actually have to go into this folder. So it's like I can put all of it into, you know, like I labeled my my Safari browser as waste of life, you know, so that I remind myself I'm going on here to just waste my life on whatever it is I'm probably going to be looking up right now. You know what I mean? And so I've learned to just kind of ignore that sign and just keep moving anyways. But it's like little reminders that we can put to actually, you know, make it less just so accessible to us. You know what I mean? Make yourself go an extra step. So you have to think a little extra before checking. How do you say snooze button in Spanish? I didn't get that far, Brian. That's why I was late. Yes, let's use technology. Let's use it. You guys are coming up with so many great ideas. I love it. I love these, and we know, okay, we're talking about in lifestyle training right now, man, there are those voices inside, right? There's a voices inside that is like, when you get that feeling when you're like, wow, I know I want to be doing this with my life, whatever it is. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be starting a revolution, right? It could be planting, flowers in a garden. It could be, making your bed every day. It could be cleaning. It could be the simplest thing, but you get that feeling inside where you're like, God, this is so important. This is really important actually. And I know this would be really meaningful for me to do this. And somehow or other, we just ignore it. Somehow or other, it's just like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Nah, I don't feel like it. Nah, like as a little bit of time goes by, like it just becomes so unimportant. And so in the same way, we could put reminders on our phone. We could do things like that. We could set up accountability. We could do so many things. And really, it's like, it's coming down to, do I believe this is important? And what am I telling myself? What is that voice that's inside of my head? That's so quick to just trade off that little bit more of a challenging step, whether it's self-introspection, whether it's looking at ourselves and the way we live our life, or it's something that we really want to do in the world, to take that one extra step of the self-introspection to see, let me take inventory. Let me take inventory to see why am I stopping myself? Why am I blocking myself from living a life that's really true to me? And then, when we're getting in touch with that, and that's something that we could do a little bit of clearing, and all of a sudden, it becomes much easier for us to follow through. Or that could be a process where, maybe we're receiving counseling or whatever it may be, that we're able to go into a very healthy process of actually clearing the weeds, clearing out those weeds of our mind, that sabotage us, that, distract us, that make us focus on something that's temporary and really ultimately unfulfilling, as opposed to focusing on things that are really truly meaningful for the life we want to live. And that's, until we've done that, we could put so many artificial impositions and so many, I could tell you the best time management tools in the world. I could give you all the steps of those things, but no, you're not going to do it, because that voice is still running the show. There's someone else that's still driving, right? It's not our higher self isn't driving. And so this is why, so much of what we're talking about with spiritual life, this is why we look at it as a foundation. I love it. Yeah. Decluttering and making room for more meaningful things is that, we're starting there. That's a start. That's the foundation. We're starting there. Inventory, our own conscience, our own self. Let's clear the clutter. It doesn't end there. Then from there, let's act with compassion. Let's step out in practical ways in our life and follow through with the passion that's burning in our hearts to actualize the unique gifts, our unique purpose in this world in service to God and humanity. We're not going to get there if we still have the lower self driving. We're not actually going to get to that fulfilling, empowered, connected action, transformative action in our lives. If we haven't begun to clear that clutter, it's gonna keep on sabotaging us. So let's take inventory. What are those limiting beliefs that we have in our life? What are those stories that we're telling ourselves that are, really compressing us and putting us in a box? And let's see, what can we do? What can we do to clear that a little bit more, so that we follow through with what we know to be true to ourselves? Let's follow through with that. I'm super grateful for you guys. And Eddie, I saw, we had Doug tuning in online, and Rebecca and Zoe, seeing so many of you guys online, some of you guys that are just joining as well. Damodar showing up so steadily. We're so grateful you guys are tuning in. David Shields and all you guys on Zoom. We got such a beautiful, beautiful crew today.
Eddie, when will phase 2 kick in? Yeah. Whenever you kick the door down, brother.
So grateful for you guys. Doyal, thank you for investing and learning how to communicate your life in Spanish. Thank you for that.
Yes.
We look forward to receiving the benefits of that on Instagram and Zoom in the very near future.
I try to be multicultural. You know, I'm trying to learn.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Did you anything in closing? Otherwise, we'll
just love you guys. Be well. Take care. See you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for praying with Vira. So good to see you guys. Join us on Zoom next time. Write to us, Prayer Revolution at bhakticenter.org. Hasta mañana, Martha's Paintings. And we will see you next time. We love you guys. Be well. Stay in touch.
Adios, amigos, amigas.
There you go.